What's going on, Colts Nation? It's Elijah from Sports Talk Indy. We finally, once again, have another update on the status of Anthony Richardson and where he is in his development as he continues this comeback from what was a somewhat disappointing inaugural rookie season. So, Anthony Richardson, what we've known so far is that Anthony Richardson is expected to continue begin the throwing motion. He's on a pitch count. We'll go into that further here in just a second. But we're looking at where he is and where he's expected to be, when we can expect to see him back on the field and workout start here in the next coming weeks. So what can we expect? So this report comes from Stephen Holder, retweeted by Adam Schefter. So Anthony Richardson currently right now is in Jacksonville, Florida. And so he's set to continue to work with the medicine balls and work with this. So this is kind of a little funny portion of the report that I'll read real quick. And it says, after some plyometrics and sprints, Richardson's trainers put him through a dynamic warm-up that included tossing a small weighted ball against a padded wall. Richardson, after putting too much torque into one of his throws, left an obvious mark, and he said, "Oh, my bad." And then obviously it goes on, but it shows that Anthony Richardson is still the same freak athlete that we've known and that we've seen him to be. And it goes on. Anthony Richardson's on a pitch count, roughly 40 or so throws per day. He was pushing that number, but he didn't want to hear it. He said, "Okay, let's just throw a sail route, nice and easy." And it was supposed to be Richardson's last pass of the day. And then it goes on to say that it was his best throw of his life. So this is, again, some more things to be really, really positive about. And this goes on, the throw. Hewitt said that's the best throw of your life right there. And Richardson was a hair off and didn't love it. He said, "Now one more." And the next throw was something less than perfect in Richardson's estimation. He asked for another. The request was granted. Finally, wisdom prevailed, and they shut Richardson down for the day. It was his fifth session of the week, and he had thrown more than 200 passes in all in just 5 months post-surgery. This guy is a freak of nature. To come out of an AC joint separation, tear, and be able 5 months to be able to throw 200 throws in a week, I think just goes to show once again that we are dealing with an absolute monster of an athlete, which is incredible. That's exactly what we hoped for when we got Anthony Richardson. Was a guy who wasn't made of glass, which last season definitely seemed to be. But this guy's already coming back. And so the comeback, I think, is really, really good. His arm strength is clearly there. He put a hole in a wall, it seems. And that he's looking at guys, he's making these throws that everyone around him is saying the throw of his life, and he's not happy with it. That's what we want to see. That's what we're hoping to see out of Anthony Richardson coming back for year two. We're getting guys around him, and to be able to have this guy who is just a freak. And it goes on to say this. Richardson said he's a perfectionist, but actually trying to dial it back again. Then again, it's hard to lower your standards when the hopes of an entire franchise rest on your surgically repaired shoulder. That's a really good point, like really good kind of slide there by Stephen Holder. And he said it used to be really bad. Old me probably would have been here throwing for another 30 minutes. I'm just trying to find that balance. The Colts have also been preaching about perspective. Both Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard have said in previous interviews that they believe it is imperative to be smart with Richardson as he rehabilitates. I agree with this 100%. I think we saw with Andrew Luck what happens when you force a guy back from injury too soon and you put too much pressure on him. I think that's why that it was super important for them to bring in Jonathan Taylor for a long-term contract, because we've seen what happens when you get a guy you get like the Manning, but Manning didn't always have a good rushing game behind him, and so everything relied on him. There were some games where Manning would throw 50 passes in a game, and that's not sustainable. The report goes on to say this. Sorry, technical difficulties cut that video short. Ballard has emphasized in particular the importance of being deliberate, a lesson that stems from experience at the end of Andrew Luck's era in Indianapolis. Good. Take responsibility for that. Like, seriously, there needs to be some accountability on how the Indianapolis Colts handled Andrew Luck. Like, the dude it could have been a top 5 quarterback all freaking time. And they mishandled the way he did that. And Chris Ballard was kind of at the front of that. Like, we needed to add to a lot more. And obviously, like, he came in, Luck retired only 2 years into Chris Ballard. So it's apples and oranges to an extent, but also, like, good. I'm glad that you're learning and you're taking care of Andrew Luck. In fact, the Colts' stunning departure, Luck was stunning departure in 2019 that ultimately led to Richardson after 4 seasons of what turned to be a 1-year placeholder at the position. If I see another QB carousel graphic. I swear on everything. I'm gonna burn NBC to the ground. This is ridiculous. Um, Ballard, after watching Ballard and Jim Cooter watched Richardson throw, and they were stunned. They said, "My God, I mean, you wouldn't know that he's still in rehab watching him play football." I think this is really exciting. I think um, all of this to say, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be okay. My biggest concern with him was that post injury, Anthony Richardson was not going to be able to do what he did before and be able to be the athlete that he was before. I think we all know that he can make the throws. I personally was really concerned that taking 8 months off or 5 months off or whatever was going to eliminate. You see these guys, these quarterbacks who deal with these injuries and then can never come back fully. I think that we're seeing that a lot of these guys, there's a lot of hope to be seen around Anthony Richardson. I mean, you look at Alex Smith, very beginning of Alex Smith's career, he had an AC joint sprain that was worse than Anthony Richardson's. Alex Smith went on to have a really good career following. Honestly, if as a Colts fan, if we can have a guy as good as Alex Smith, and I think Richardson could be so much better, but even if we can be just with Alex Smith's level, I would be happy. To be done with the QB carousel and to be able to get a quarterback who can play at the level of Alex Smith, I think would be incredible. But I think Richardson's ceiling is so much higher. You get a guy with Cam Newton's build, but with the arm strength and accuracy of a guy who's I mean, just a freak athlete. I'm excited. I don't want to make comparisons because I don't want to be, this. I'll pull this back later if Anthony Richardson ends up being a bust. But I think all of this to say, I'm really excited for how the Colts are handling this, how Richardson is growing, and to see that he's a bit of a perfectionist. That makes me happy. It makes me say, like, yeah, we need to strive for greatness. We've been struggling in that area for a long time. And so I think there's a lot to be excited about. And yeah, so the report goes on. You should definitely go read from Stephen Holder at ESPN the rest of the report. But all that to say, to give a brief rundown of it, Anthony Richardson looks totally fine. He looks like he's going to continue to be striving in this position. And yeah, I'm excited to see where we go. And we'll continue to post updates as we get them on Anthony Richardson's stats.